Welcome everyone, my name is Dylan, and today we'll be looking at a time-lapse of me 3D sculpting an armored transport vehicle. It's available right now on my mini factory for 3D printable download, so you can take a look at it. Link is in the description below. You can see right now that I start with a sketch of what I'm going to be sculpting. I also have reference images on my second screen to give myself inspiration of what I'm going to sculpt. This is not supposed to be one specific vehicle, but it's inspired by a few different vehicles in the military. So the Striker and a few other armored transport vehicles, but it's not one specific vehicle. Right now what I'm trying to do is to get the basic shape of the vehicle down. So the big hull, the main shape of the vehicle itself. Then I'm starting to extrude and refine the shape of the vehicle itself. You saw there that I extruded the top to get some more form. Okay, and I now added a few modifiers to really build up the detail and refine the shape of the model. Again, you see me redoing the corner here and I'm gonna redo it a few times during the build because it did not fit with what I had in mind. Now we started modeling the wheels. So the wheels are a basic cylinder that is then refined and mirrored. I'm now doing the tracks, the tire tracks, just to make the tires more interesting, because if the tires were basic cylinders, it would be a bit boring and not realistic. So you can see there with an array modifier, I can make the tracks go around the wheel and wrap them with the shape of the original cylinder of the tire. Once that's done, we're gonna merge these parts with the base shape of the tire. Then I'm trying to add a few bolts to the tire because most wheels have bolts around them to hold the wheels to the axle. And then I'm just adding a few additional details on the tires to make them more realistic. I'm gonna merge all of it together and duplicate the wheels. Change their orientation so they're not all aligned. That would be weird. I'm gonna later mirror them so that they're the same on both sides. Now I'm gonna add a few hatches around the vehicle just to get a bit more variation. Some additional armor panels. Basically, most of it is just moving around different vertices and trying to get a good shape, trying to keep the shapes as simple as possible and trying to keep the model clean, because you don't want to have a messy mesh, because it's difficult to deal with later if your mesh isn't clean. So then I'm getting into the hatch of the back of the vehicle, so the main door for the transport, the door that the infantry is going to use to get in and out there's a lot of details that just popped up, and that's because I copied some details that I had created for the tank model that's also released on our My Mini Factory store. So one trick, if you're getting into 3D modeling, reuse things that you've already sculpted. There's no point in redoing the work each and every time. So anytime you have something that you already created, don't hesitate to reuse it for another model if you need it. So that allowed me to go a bit faster, that allows me to save some time, and it allows me to spend more time on other models. Now basically it's just moving the different models around and adding them to the base frame of the vehicle. That's one of the things in 3D model. When you 3D model for 3D printing, you need to have a lot of details that jut out of the model, and sometimes you have to exaggerate how big these details are, because if you make them as small as they would really be, they don't show up on 3D printing. Yeah, and you want these details to show up, because that's how the painters, when they paint the 3D models, they're gonna use these details to allow them to get a better paint job. So it's important to get that right. So I was going to do a rail manually, but then I figured it was going to be easier with a curve, so I just popped in a curve here, and you're going to see then applying a circle onto the curve, and that's going to give me a rail so that the infantry can grab on it and grab the rail and get onto the vehicle if needed. So here I'm also adding a guard for the turret that's eventually going to be added there. And I'm just, for those who wonder, I'm not coming up with most of these things. I'm just getting this from inspiration I see of different images I got online. Again, you saw the antenna was sculpted for the tank. I just copied over into this model. At first I thought these details on these ovals were gonna be a bit bigger, but a bit higher and a bit bigger, but I squashed them down because I thought it was gonna be too difficult to 3D print. And that's one of the things I'm constantly thinking of is, okay, how difficult is this gonna be to print? How, what angle is it gonna take? And like the bolts are a bad example, because that's something that's a pain to get to print correctly. All the small details that jut out from a flat surface. But like I said earlier, you need these details to make the model interesting and realistic and fun to paint. Again, you just see me adding bolts all over the place. It's the way I'm adding them is not that realistic, to be honest. It would be more realistic to think where the rivets really should be. But adding, so there's a lot more of them than there really should be on a vehicle like this one. But I needed to add them to break up the shape, and like I said earlier, add some more details for the model itself to be interesting to paint. So now we're gonna get into the turret finally. I don't know why I waited so much to get into the turret, and it was pretty quick to do, honestly. So I probably should have started with the turret earlier, but here we are. So again, I'm copying the flares from the tank, adding them to the turret, then adding some details to the turret itself. Most of the time, when I'm sculpting something like this, I'm watching videos and documentaries on the subject while I'm sculpting it. So I'm getting additional information of how it works, how it's used. During this time, I was watching different videos on armored warfare, modern warfare, getting some additional info of maybe things that I should take into consideration while I'm sculpting. I hope you liked this. I hope you liked the model. If you want to support us, please get our models on My Mini Factory. They're available right now. You can also support us by joining our Patreon, where we release some miniatures for free every month. Please make sure to subscribe and like this video, and we'll see you in the next one.